Hi, my name is Susan Doyle from Box Media and I will be the moderator today. I would like to welcome you to Lean Construction Ireland's 20th webinar, the topic of which is Lean at Sisk Construction. If you have a question, please type it in the question box and we will consolidate and ask Joe and Cormac in the second half of the webinar. If there are any questions that we don't get answered during the webinar, we will follow up by email afterwards. The agenda will be as follows: opening introduction by Gary Widger, presentation by Joe and Cormac, followed by questions and answers. I will now hand you over to Gary.
Good afternoon, everybody. So today's webinar is brought to you by Lean Construction Ireland in conjunction with our media partners, Box Media. And the focus today is Lean at Sisk Construction, and our speakers are Joe O'Sullivan and Cormac Fitzpatrick. Joe O'Sullivan is a regional director in Sisk. Joe started his career as an engineer and contract manager in the UK, working both with main contractors and large subcontractors on a variety of projects across the commercial, hospital and industrial sectors. Joe returned to Ireland in 1997 and since then has concentrated on working in the life sciences sector, delivering a variety of construction and project management solutions, from large-scale new builds to small but complex retrofit projects and live campus environments for large multinational clients. Joe's core focus is on relationships and people. This is what really delivers successful projects. Cormac Fitzpatrick is a contracts manager for Sisk. In the last 18 years, Cormac has worked on a range of projects across the leisure, pharmaceutical, commercial and residential sectors. Cormac is currently managing the Lodges project on the Centre Parcs development in Longford, whereas dual focus is on process and people, on a project where 400 separate lodges need to be rapidly completed, getting it right first time, every time. Now I'm going to pass you over to Joe and Cormac to start their presentation.
Good afternoon. Sorry, minor technical difficulty there. First of all, thank you, Susan and Gary, for your introduction. Cormac and I are in Cork, and Gary mentioned to me earlier on that trying to do one of these webinars when you can't see your audience and you don't know if you have an audience, for that matter, can be a little bit disconcerting. But Cormac took the opposing view that giving me the chance to speak uninterrupted for something in the order of half an hour must be like heaven. So as I say, we're speaking from Cork this afternoon. Going to give you a very brief overview of Sisk for those people who don't know what we're about, maybe, just to put in context where our Lean program started and where it's going to. We look at the impetus for Lean in Sisk, why we started getting involved in Lean transformation, I suppose. How we defined it, and we certainly found actually defining Lean a bit of a challenge because there's some loose and fluffy stuff around it that can be difficult to understand what it's about. And of course, everyone knows what it's about is the other point that we found. Cormac's going to do a case history on Centre Parcs, and we looked in at some of the other Lean initiatives that we're doing with Sisk. So John Sisk founded the group in 1859. The numbers are there. I suppose it's now a fifth generation family-owned company, and among the current shareholders on the far right, Richard, JP and Owen. So Owen is on the bottom right, and he's our performance director and is heavily involved in performance and I suppose the Lean program that we're running. Very briefly, again, just maybe look at the Ireland piece of this. Our head office is in Dublin, and the Dublin office tends to manage everything inside the M50 typically. And the Cork office runs Ireland, South, West and North, which is basically everything outside of the M50, broadly speaking. And the Cork office also runs our European operations. We have also two other divisions in Ireland, the Civils and Sisk Living, which is a residential division. Very brief look at some current projects. They're on the screen for you there. Some of them in Cork. The bottom right-hand one is Centre Parcs, which Cormac will speak about later on. Bottom left, the Curragh Racecourse will be open for racing again shortly. You can see that from the N7 if you're driving down a wonderful landmark project. Capitol Dock in Dublin, I think it's going to be the tallest building in the country, I think. Job in Wembley, just for example, data centre, and Parcs, obviously not a current project, was completed last year, but back in the news again this week, I suppose, on the Liam Miller story. So where do Sisk go and where do we come from with Lean? Well, for Sisk, it's really always been and continues to be, it's a family-owned company, and it's always been about the people and relationships. So back in 1890, John Sisk, the founder, said the building is essentially about people, their skills, their training, and their motivation. And I think that the last word there is the important one for me anyway. The motivation piece, it's not just what you can do, it's what makes you want to do it. John G. Sisk in 1945, the quote again is there. So this has always been the company culture, I guess, that anybody who seeks to do business with us is entitled to just and courteous treatment. That applies to our clients, that applies to our employees, and that applies to our subcontractors and supply chain. We redefined our vision in 2016 to be the best at creating value for customers, shareholders, and people, and our values of care, integrity, and excellence. I think, again, they all reflect through the people piece, which really is what Sisk take out of Lean. So in 2015, we started trying to figure out, did we need this Lean thing or didn't we? Or what could it do for us and what did we understand about it? And the initial thought was, look, we don't really do much in the line of repetitive work where you can, set up systems and get the slickest way forward and keep on repeating it. Also, the physical construction work that we do, which is, 90-odd% of what gets done by our supply chain, who are paying their labor. We don't have a significant cohort of direct labor. So what's in this for us, right? We already have, continuous improvement, striving for perfection type programs in safety and quality environmental. We're BIM level 2 accredited, and we're, attempting to use every piece of available technology. And we have enough systems and programs coming out our ears that we really don't want another one. And then the second point of view, I guess, was let's interrogate it and see what might be there. A lot of our clients, particularly in the life sciences and foreign direct investment type clients, were focused on Lean, and we were getting questions in pre-qual. So that was probably the impetus. And we also recognized that we are inconsistent in the way we do things from one project to another, depending on who was running the job, for example. And it seemed to us that we were probably asking our subcontractors to do things that probably were burdensome and maybe not necessary. And it's easy to load that stuff onto your subcontractor when you don't have to do the work, right? And then obviously when you see having to redo work, or you see a machine standing idle, there is some inefficiency there. But as we cast around, then everyone seemed to know what it was about, but everyone seemed to have a different idea of what it was really, right? And we were involved with Highways England, and we were, as I say, unconvinced, an admirable intent, but really just a whole lot of common sense, right? So very brief run into theory, the comparison between manufacturing, where Lean started in the automotive industry. You have a static environment, repetitive process, and so on, and the material moves through the static workbench and the people stay where they are. Typically, it's completely the opposite in construction management. Every building is different. You have a whole series of one-off combinations. Our own staff teams vary from job to job. Every time you go on to a new project, you have a different mix of people probably, and the physical construction works, then the people aren't directly under our control. And so, how do we get efficiency into that? We looked around what the construction industry was doing, and we involved ourselves in some research, I suppose, on lean construction, which was a concept that came from lean manufacturing, but was developed in the 1990s primarily. And that seemed to be more about certainty and predictability, as opposed to trying to find repetitive processes, if you like. We came across Last Planner, the Daily Huddle, as it's called in lean construction speak, and the 5 S's in terms of workplace organization. And I said, well, there's not an awful lot there that we're not doing already. So it was still somewhat difficult. Maybe, okay, this 5S, how to put up a bracket in the best way by direct observation, that's fine, but we don't really put up bracket. But we did sense and felt there was something there in collaboration and relationships that we could do something with, and that seemed to strike a chord with us. So we had a deeper look then, I suppose, at lean, generally lean principles from first principles, if you like. Did some training on it, and I think we liked the piece number 1 and number 4, I think in particular, identifying the value, exactly what is value, precisely what is, who's paying for it, analyzing your business and your project from the lean perspective of what is the purpose of what you're doing, what's the process by which you do it, and who are your people. The one that I guess we liked the most, I think, at the time was looking at the definition of your customers, the external customer who's effectively your client, paying the money, so to speak, our internal organization. So, for example, we would have significant safety requirements within the Sisk organization, and maybe that's not something demanded by the client, but our Sisk requirements will ensure that we have safe sites, for instance, and obviously regulatory client is your third customer, if you like. So getting to focus on delivering only specifically what those 3 people absolutely are telling you that they want you to do, not assuming what they want you to do. That was the concept that started to gel with us, to see where we could strip back some of the stuff that we were doing and make ourselves more efficient. I think we also liked the concept of defining and measuring the problem solving piece that we found we could apply to any situation, whether it was safety, quality, productivity, or whatever. And obviously the Deming cycle piece, which we felt we were doing anyway on safety and quality and environmental, but perhaps not on productivity and efficiency. So at this point, we're probably in late 2016 at this point, and we were starting to get a little bit of traction at particular levels in the organization. And we said, okay, we get it, but what are we going to do with it? So we started a consultation process on what the lean program could look like. And we managed to get through 16 workshops, 1,050 out of approximately 1,200 staff managed to turn up to these events. And we're asked the following 5 questions. We specifically did not call it lean at the time, but we went to garner the best of ideas and also give people that recognition and that facility to be able to input into the culture that the company was developing and the overall lean program. So we ended up defining lean then as comprising lean for Sisk, comprising of 4 key elements. And I think they're in this order. The first part of lean is a respect for people and an insistence on a respect for people. And that is everybody that we touch in doing our work, recognizing that everyone has a contribution to make, that we're all equal partners, whether you're an employee of a subcontractor or an employee of a subcontractor, you can probably fix something better than a lot of us can fix it. Empowering our own staff to make decisions and to challenge the way we're doing things and to try and create more of a one team partnership approach with all of our subcontractors on projects. Really concluding that it's, 2 and 2 can be 5 if you work your relationships properly. The second piece, adding value, which really is understanding exactly what value means for each customer. And I think we always think that we know, but there are assumptions always made when you don't ask the question. Part 3 is war on waste, and the biggest issue there is recognizing what waste is, what waste looks like, and whether it's motion or over processing or whatever, helping people to understand and to see waste, because once people can see waste, they instinctively start to eliminate it. And I like the mathematics on this one, that if you can improve your output by just 0.1% every day on a 45 or 46 week, 5-day week year, you will improve your output by 25%. And then that's a challenge we put out internally. Are you perfect? Can you improve your productivity and your output by 1% over the year, by 5%? Can you just work smarter and rather than harder? And we're now trying to get all of our site staff to go home on a Friday evening at 3 o'clock and close down our sites early, for instance. And obviously our excellence continuous improvement piece is really to invigorate a constant search for innovative solutions. So the light bulb moment came when we said, right, how do we get all of our Sisk people to take this, to internalize this? And what we came up with was that we need to get all of our Sisk people understanding that everyone that comes through the gate is on our payroll. And if we do that, And if we root out the inefficiency and the waste that we see our subcontractors suffering, and if we make it our responsibility, or partly our responsibility, to help them and to allow them to help themselves, I suppose, and to make themselves more productive in every way we possibly can, then I think we're going to be able to really deliver on lean. So the whole holistic approach, I suppose, to the construction from regards what's it going to do? It's going to make our supply chain more efficient. It's going to give better value for our customers. And the ultimate outturn of this is that Sisk will become more efficient and robust, but also we will contribute to, I suppose, the whole FDI, foreign investment, if we are recognised in this country over time as being a very, very efficient place to do work. So in summary, Lean for Sisk is all about the following. I won't read them out for you, but our, innovation, the importance of the visual, and really a large dose of common sense and a desire to eliminate waste. Right? It is absolutely not about money, and I think we try not to talk about money in Lean. Ultimately, it's in there somewhere. If you make less effort, you get more done with less. Somebody somewhere is saving money. What we try to do is not to see what's in this for Sisk, is just say some way can we make this process more efficient. And really, it's just a way of thinking, right? It's just a way of thinking to try and save effort, get to the same end using less effort. So we have defined Lean for Sisk, we think. We understand now what we're trying to achieve. So how can we embed it? And here's the trick. We want to embed Lean without making work out there for anybody in the organization. So you need to be able to implement a Lean program without it becoming a program as such. So we came up with a three-pronged approach where we had a central Lean team looking across the business at where we could, I suppose, create efficiencies in our management systems, for argument's sake. We took on a number of consultants and we undertook what we call guided projects on 5 or 6 different projects. And then we did yellow belt training with a reasonable sized cohort of people and involved them in some mini projects. So the Lean team, as I say, looked at how could we understand our clients' value requirements better. We looked at in quality, for instance, at everywhere we'd had any kind of a quality or defect problem of any consequence in the past 10 years, and we came up with a Q10 concept, which was our top 10 problems, and absolutely did deep dives into absolute best practice and started to roll those out over the last 18 months. So we now have an absolute best practice to eliminate what were the 10 key quality problems that we had suffered in the last 10 years. The guided Lean projects, just examples on these. In Wales, we did a project, and again, this is an example of Lean where you don't have to take on board everything. You can pick the bits that suit your organization or suit your project. So in ICC Wales, a project that's going on at the moment, they brought in a consultant, and it was totally about schedule compression and focusing on the critical path on the project and measuring that every 2 days. On the A19, the UK planning collaboration was a focus. Cormac's going to speak about Centre Parcs Lodges, where logistics is a focus in Cork. We're doing that logistics and productivity measurement. And in ADVI, our big focus there was collaboration, getting rid of meetings and having the picture in the middle there, where all stand-up meetings and trying to limit the use of unnecessary meetings and minutes and so on. And then many projects then where we got people trained and they came up with their own projects, one of which is the online induction, which we're launching next week, and we speak about a little bit later. So I'm going to hand you over to Cormac to give you a brief overview on Centre Parcs Lodges.
Hi everybody, and just a brief overview there on the overall project in Centre Parcs. So the project consists of a pancake house, bars and restaurants, sports halls, subtropical swimming paradise, cycle centre, sports lakes, a sauna, 30 apartments, and 466 lodges is what I'm going to talk to you about today. And I suppose the lodges project then, just the numbers, and the site is spread out over an area of about 400 acres, and we've a planned craft on site of about 400 personnel, and an optimum rate of production of somewhere around 3 lodges per day. And some of the stats there, we have 600,000 roof tiles, 40,000 square meters of floor screeds, and 3,500 windows, just to give you a flavour. Sorry, I just have a quick video here. Give you an overview there. To the overview there of the site, as you can see, it's fully based inside a forest just outside Ballymahan and Longford. You can see there in the middle ground at the minute the clearing is for the centre buildings, and in the foreground, and you can see the lodge clusters dotted around there in various stages of construction. Just to give you an example, there are some foundations with radon barrier floor screed insulation ready to be cast. Some timber frame construction overview there at the moment. And timber frame deliveries all batched, wall erection. Roofing works there is a typical cluster we'll talk about, and we'll talk about some work sampling carried out on roofing there in a couple of minutes' time. And external envelope works, you can see there, cladding. Material, again, management, all the materials are delivered and batched and delivered to the correct location at the correct time. Internal fit out then is a stove insulation I'll talk to you about in a minute. It's a lodge there ready for first fix M&E. And through various stages of finishing, the whole process is that each trade has one visit and there's no return visits there. Okay, just moving on, and due to the size of the site, with big focus on site logistics, and to overcome that, I suppose we need to set up some mobile and satellite setups with site canteen and welfare facilities to reduce travel waste. We used 4D BIM technology to plan out our logistics and our resources and materials for the sequences. And initially at the start of the project, we carried out some visits to similar facilities in the UK. And taking the information from those visits, we challenged all the detailing and the design to optimize our construction sequence. And then we carried out collaborative interactive planning sessions with our subcontractors just to fine-tune the passes and the trade splits. Some examples of the design of resequencing and that we implemented, I suppose, we took a view early to cast the floor screed in advance of the timber frame, which was different from the UK models. What that allowed us to do was to install the stove and flue in one visit. So in previous Centre Parcs installations, there was 4 separate visits to install the entire stove and flue assembly. At Longford, we have reduced that visit to 1 visit and to install the full assembly. So the flashing chimney, flue assembly and stove are all carried out in tandem with the batten and felt works on the roof. The installation then of the vapour barrier could commence at an earlier stage, allowing our first fix drywall works to commence early, and works by trade in sequence do not require any revisit or out of sequence works. The redesign then another example of the first fix drywall installation. So early start to the first fix ceiling and batten after the flue installation we spoke about earlier, and allows a revised installation allowing the vapour barrier to progress. The surrounds to the stove enclosure are actually the only bit of metal frame partitioning on the project, and they come pre-assembled and prefab to be installed on site, and that allows the first fix electrical install to commence. The bathrooms and ensuite walls are boarded to three sides with stud wall install complete in order to maintain the first fix mech sequence. And even the hot presses are boarded and skimmed and painted. And all that allows is the first fix mechanical and electrical trades to pass through one visit and no return visit. For just our scheduled planning and our visual management was a key aspect here. So we developed a detailed overall schedule, and we introduced buffer zones between the trades, and that allowed us to overcome any variables, maybe weather, labour fluxes, etc. And from that, we distilled it down into the Excel spreadsheet you see on the right-hand side, which gave us very, very visual and detailed information on exactly where we were on any given trade at any given time. So the spreadsheet there populates any item in blue is a planned, and the green then is completed when the activity is complete. So straight away you can see down at the bottom left there are a couple of trades that are ahead of program, whereas up at the top right it's 1 or 2 items that are behind. 4D BIM was utilised there, as I said earlier, mainly just for logistics planning, management of deliveries, and personnel movement throughout the site. We also ran planned against actual construction, just so we could alter any of those plans as the site progressed. Daily whiteboard meetings. We use very visual boards on this project because, again, we had an awful lot of information to distill out to the field, and that changed rapidly every day. So the daily whiteboard meetings on ground, all the contractors were there to coordinate progress tracking and reporting. Materials management was a big risk, big wastage risk on the project. So we had various techniques employed, designed to reduce inventory, transport, motion and materials waste. I suppose before risk categories, A to D, and as the risk of wasted material increases as you go down the list. So a number of employees were implemented there. You can see it at the middle, or the left-hand picture, sorry. That's their mechanical fittings. You can see they're bagged and labelled for lodge type, ready to go out to the field. That ensures that only the correct amount of material, no more, no less, goes out to any given lodge at any time. Blockwork, insulation, you can see their roof tiles are in the middle pictures. Again, we worked with our suppliers that our call-off orders were sized to suit each individual cluster. So when we were calling off orders, we knew that it was the exact right amount of material that was coming in at the right time and again to the right place. And then just to manage the material inventories on site, we implemented a pull system. So you can see there all the different fixtures, fittings, they're all laid out. Very easy for the storeman to see if they're running low, and they can ensure that there's adequate stock inside at all times. One of the bigger steps we made was we leased a warehouse off-site through the joinery manufacturing company. That allowed us to manufacture all our joinery. You can see there in one of the middle pictures, the doors are actually batched there by each lodge, and they're stacked ready to go. What happens then is our site joiner will we've employed him. He will go and he'll actually collect the individual lodges that he requires to fit out the following day. That way, there's absolutely no storage of joinery on site whatsoever. Everything is delivered just in time to the right place. The warehouse then, it allowed us to actually cut down our skirtings, architraves, and window boards to the sizes required. So there was absolutely no site work really required on site. Mentioned earlier there, one of the issues we had early days was the effort required for the roofing work. So there was excessive effort required to achieve the required outputs for the roofing works. And we were averaging about 57 craft days to complete a standard roof. So we carried out some work sampling and productivity measurements, and following that, we identified the areas of the greatest waste, and we carried out some on-site coaching with operatives to identify waste areas. They include some detailing, materials management, some defects that were being left behind, and the management of accessories. So we implemented those changes, and we've come back with about a 22% saving in the effort, which should equate to somewhere around 5,000 hours by the end of the project.
Sorry, could you interrupt Cormac there for a second? That was a hugely instructive exercise for us, I think, that we went out and we spoke with the roofers directly, or Cormac did, should I say, spoke with them directly, explained what we were doing, and they worked with us to get the timings and the sequences, and by the completion of the process, they understood the concept of waste, you know, as well as we did. So I think there was a joint effort on that one, which is a good example of how we're using it.
Okay, nearly finished there now. So digital project delivery, we implemented the use of cloud-based field tools on site. So we identified early that there was excessive administration would be required. We had somewhere in the region of 18,500 planned inspections to be carried out on works as they progressed. So we implemented the field view for all our QA, QC checking. So we estimated that conservatively, if you save 10 minutes per inspection, that would equate to a saving of about 3,100 man hours over the course of the project. So then, just in summary, really, there's a graph there on the right-hand side that shows for a project that is on program, we had the red line, the upper line, indicates the planned effort required, and the lower blue line indicates the actual effort employed to achieve our program today. If that's factored out, it should lead to a saving of somewhere around 60,000 hours saved over the course of the project, from where we planned to be at the outset to where we actually are now. Okay, I'll just hand you back over to Joe then for summary.
Okay, thanks, Cormac. So that's actually, Cormac probably doesn't want to take as much credit as he should. That, I think, is probably considered as being the most efficient job that Sisk have ever done. And there's currently 260 on site.
340 now.
Okay, we're up to 340 on site at the moment, and that, as Cormac was saying, is trending very significantly below what the planned man hours were for that state of the project. So looking at some of the other lean initiatives that I will get through this fairly quickly. Next week, we will be launching our online induction. I think the problem is self-evident. We were asking our subcontractors to rock up at site A this morning and spend anything from an hour to 2.5 hours at a safety induction, and the same contractor, the same person, was going to site B in 3 months' time and hearing, you know, either the same message or a slightly different message, and it was probably hugely burdensome on subcontractors, particularly. So, as one of our lean mini projects came up and invested some money in getting this an online induction content where it lasts you for 12 months and you can get into any Sisk project across Ireland and in the UK. So looking at the numbers, we did the calculations on this based on our average number of inductees and the average times. And the significant point here is the key beneficiary will be the supply chain, not so much Sisk. We will, of course, save our own time, but it's really the supply chain. We're losing anything from an hour to 3 or 4 hours on the first morning on site, every site. They're the ones that win. That's an example, I suppose, of looking at the thing holistically. This is a simple little one that we did on a recent project. We had a simple spreadsheet in each meeting room, and the chair or the host of each meeting recorded how long and how many people were at a meeting and a rough percentage of what we were talking about in the meetings and the overall durations for Sisk people in various types of meetings and what they were discussing. Came up with new rules. Meetings, 1 hour stop, minutes, 1 page limit, reports, 2 page limit, and you only send an email if talking is not enough. So keep on talking. And we eliminated monthly reports. So on this particular project, we were doing a monthly report for the client. And after 2 months, you said, well, hang on, we're doing a kind of a weekly meeting anyway. What is this monthly report doing for us, for the client? And we went to them and asked them, and they said, you know what, yeah, fair enough, gives a weekly update. So we saved 40 Sisk hours per week and probably twice that for our supply chain just by taking a new approach to meetings, having stand-up meetings, not writing minutes if it was just a simple case of we all know what we're doing and we'll come back tomorrow or next week. And we're trying to replicate that on a number of other projects and get people to take that up. Some of the other initiatives, Field View Cormac mentioned, this is a tablet-based inspection for quality and safety inspections on site that we estimate across both Ireland and UK will save us 125,000 hours per annum. Productivity tracking is something we're doing on a number of projects, and it's giving us a heads up on where we might be running into trouble, either cost-wise or schedule-wise. And digital project delivery initiatives on every project, I suppose, we're doing at the moment. A knowledge management program, which is underway to harness the best of good ideas from all projects on both sides of the water. A QMS review that one of our colleagues is heading up, where we've taken the quantity of documents in our quality management system down by 30%, and the reduction in the number of pages by 47%. So there were various procedures that had maybe grown up over the last 20 or 30 years, stripping all those back to the bare minimum. And in head office, in simplified accounts and invoicing procedures and so on. A quality defect elimination program that I spoke about earlier on, and a customer satisfaction program, which is a variety of surveying techniques that we're using to see what customers actually want. So, in summary, what's working and what's not working, and what's the advice? It's all about the people. The likes of Cormac here beside me would be a huge fan, just instinctively was a huge fan. So we try and focus on the people who buy into this most quickly and most easily, right, and convert the open-minded first, as we say. Leadership from chief executive down through main board directors is absolutely essential. We need to recognise then that people have a day job. So something like the online induction probably took us far longer to get through because we were getting a variety of people inputting, we would have been better off if we had taken somebody and got them to do nothing for a month, but just to get all that put together, if we would have got there more quickly. For some reason, there's some deep-rooted psychological theory perhaps that will explain it, but some people are resistant to change, others embrace it. Probably doesn't matter why, just recognise it's a fact, I suppose. Also, again, the likes of what Cormac's done, the lodges, other sites are aware of that, and we'll cross-fertilise. People will pick up on good ideas. We keep encouraging people, please don't email me if you can avoid it. And I think our supply chain subcontractors gradually will see and build more trust if we make them more efficient, and we do the do, let's say. Telling our own sites, having no problem, can be your biggest problem, and asking a guy why he's doing it that way. If he's doing it that way because we've always done it that way, then you know, he's a ripe candidate for lean, let's say. Where we're going, coaching, leading by example, watching what one site does and trying to transfer to another site. Getting the concept of everyone being on your payroll is a huge thing for us, and just to get all our staff, I suppose, to open our eyes. And we need to recognise, probably, is it a fact or a personal opinion, I'm not sure, that people will only do what they have to do or what helps them do their job. So we either force people to do it, which isn't what we're at. You give them something and help them do their job, or to give them more job satisfaction, and it will get taken up. Thank you for your time. I think that's our piece of it done. Hopefully that was of interest. I'm not sure has Gary got any questions in there during the presentation, and we're obviously happy to have conversations with people offline afterwards. So thank you for your attendance, and thanks again to Susan and Gary and to Cormac for travelling down to the Wheels Capital.
That's great. Listen, Joe and Cormac, thanks very much. Yeah, I've a number of questions have come in. Listen, firstly, just want to thank Joe and Cormac. I thought it was a really fascinating presentation. Some of the big takeaways for me, I really liked the way the company was stringent on lean isn't going to consume Sisk. We're going to determine how we focus and what we focus on. An awful lot of good, practical, simple, common sense ideas around meetings, install, etc. But probably the big one for me that jumps out is the fact that you had 1,000+ people go through sessions, and I think when you engage with 90% plus of your company, good outcomes are inevitable. So look, I've got about 5 questions. Feel free, anybody, to post more questions as we go along. So some of the questions are assigned to Joe and Cormac. So I'll start firstly with you, Joe. This is from Sean. It's a long question. So it's firstly, yeah, probably, what's the one biggest piece of advice you could offer somebody embarking on their journey? And then a subset of that is, with respect to your journey, where do you think you are? What resistance have you hit, and how much of the company do you think is on board? So that's the first one for Joe.
I've counted 7 questions, Gary.
Okay.
I counted 7 questions there. The single biggest piece of advice I would say is that if you come up with a lean program that makes somebody do, or makes people generally do more work, then you're probably not on the right track. But that would be my opinion. And this I think, you know, should be a journey of stripping stuff away. And yes, you're going to have to do little investments. You're going to have to do training, and you know, like the example of the meeting recording. Okay, somebody had to spend 2 minutes recording while we were doing at each meeting and so on, and we had to gather that data. That kind of thing is inevitable. But we concluded that effort by insisting that people got their minutes down to 1 page. Why do you need to write 2 pages? Why do you need to tell me who said what at a meeting? We don't need that stuff. We just need a set of action. So it's really helping people and coaching them to make their life easier. So just for example, I think Last Planner is wonderful up to a point. but we don't engage very much with the latter piece of it, recording what percentage complete you managed to achieve of your jobs last week and what the underlying reasons were, because we normally kind of have that figured out. You know, if the plasterer doesn't turn up, that's why the plastering didn't get done, kind of thing, and try and put our effort into fixing the problem, and rather than, you know, spending too much time doing administration work around it, for example. So in the second half of your question, I think, was how engaged are people? Colleague asked me last week, is this going to be something that we're going to do for so long and then stop doing it? Well, that's not what Lean for Sisk is about. Lean for Sisk is a way of thinking of doing things easier. Now, that makes it sound soft and fuzzy, but I'm going to show you some of the examples that we have, that the likes of Cormac has implemented by just using a combination of common sense and the constant challenge. So I would say that probably 20 to 30% of our people are engaged in this in some way. Maybe I'm underestimating that. How far along the journey are we? Probably, you know, probably 20%. In that we can be far, far, far better. We can do far more, and we probably need to do a lot more engagement and demonstrating to our subcontractors that we really mean this and that we're really trying to make life more efficient for them. So a long way to go in that regard, I guess.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. So, Cormac, a shorter question for you, and this is from Ali. The lodges is a very repetitive project with hundreds of lodges. What learnings do you think you can take from that type of project onto your next bespoke project?
I think the level of repetition made us really focus on it more than we had previously. But going forward, you can apply a lot of the principles to any installation, really. It's just a matter of trying to streamline the process, manage your materials, and eliminate the amount of repeat work, if at all possible. And I think that will apply across any project, to be honest.
Okay, thanks, Cormac. I've got three more questions, and I'll let you guys decide who answers them. So, question number 3 is: Have you got any feedback from your contractors or your supply chain on with regards to your lean projects?
Gary, you just cut for a split second there. I think you're asking, have we had any feedback?
Feedback from contractors or your supply chain on your lean projects?
Yes and no. There is probably, when you explain to people what you're doing and what your motivation is, there's probably a little bit of bemusement, like, no, why would you do that? Why would you try and save me money, kind of thing. And you know what we're really trying to persuade them that, I think what's happened in the industry, you know, go back to the 60s or 70s, and it was all direct labor, or largely direct labor, apart from a couple of specialist subcontract trades. And the whole general contracting and construction management industry in this country, and probably worldwide, has devolved into, you know, a subcontracting arrangement and a subcontracting and so on. And we have, to some degree, lost our instinctive ability, or we are losing our instinctive ability to manage work from the viewpoint of the trade and for keeping people efficient. We try and explain that to our subcontractors, and yes, they do get it. And you know, some of them get our motivation as well, and that it is purely taking a holistic view to the overall process, and sure, somebody will win. It doesn't have to be us. Have we had anybody knocking on our door and saying, God, what you're doing on lean is absolutely super? No, not yet. But I am absolutely convinced that in the fullness of time, gradually we will create that shift in the way that our subcontractors perceive us. Only though, when all of our sites and all of our site managers and contracts managers and QSs and so on take this on board, there is no cost to it of any consequence. There can be no losers, as far as we can see, by making our supply chain, or by attempting to make our subcontractors and supply chain more productive than they are today.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Good answer. Cormac, maybe this may be for you. This is from Rory. You refer to productivity tracking. How do you see that working on your projects?
Okay, so productivity tracking, basically any activity, there's three classifications. It's either a value add where the physical face of the workplace changes, a support activity that is an item required to support that work, or waste. So it's a method of direct observation where we observe the trades of the personnel working and for periods of time intermittently throughout the day or throughout the week, and we classify all activity into one of those three categories. And once that's graphed, then we identify the waste areas and we try to focus in on them to streamline the process. And then after you've gone through the waste and eliminated as much as possible, I suppose you tend to focus more on the support activity to see how that could be improved or streamlined.
And Gary, if I could just add to that, the second piece of that is understanding, and we're doing it on a number of projects with a number of trades, understanding what trade outputs are. And again, back to the previous point I was making, 30 years ago, we understood and we could tell you, how long it was going to take to put up a meter of pipe, to lay 1,000 blocks, that type of thing. We lost our ability to do that to some degree, and we lost our instinct for that as the whole subcontracting thing took over, and it wasn't our problem. So we're now coaching again from first principles our own staff, our own foremen, area supervisors and engineers to understand what outputs we should be getting from our key trades, and helping using that. And this is not something we do on every single project for every single trade. We do it in key areas, and we're looking to see if the outputs we're expecting to get are being delivered in the field. Because if they're not, we're going to run into some kind of a problem, either schedule or commercial, in the fullest time.
Okay, very good. Just there's a double question on that has come in from Peter. It's for Cormac. Cormac, is there a specific program that you're using to complete your direct observation?
No, we have a very simple chart based on time slots and the classification on any of the three above.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to send me a mail, I'd be very happy to share the template with them.
Okay, great. And I assume that it's almost the direct observation, it's more the skill of the observer using an Excel template rather than any advanced software.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, Peter, I have the details of the person who asked that question. We can we could get that on to Peter, if that's okay with you.
Perfect, no problem.
So then, look, guys, final question. And knowledge sharing as a lean project. What's your position? What's your position on that? It seems you haven't got it solved, but you view it as having a lot of potential.
Yeah, we have appointed a knowledge manager probably 18 months ago now, and we have an intranet portal where we are harvesting as best we can all of the best of good ideas that various people have come up with to deal with particular problems, or various innovative solutions, use of technology, that type of thing. So we're gathering those in one place and sharing them. And in the start of 2018, we started an innovation awards where, again, just to encourage participation and the forwarding of good ideas, where every quarter there's a group of us adjudicate on all the submissions, and there's some decent prizes to be won if you come out a winner, and the entire company votes on a short list of 10 or 12 sort of Sisk has got talent kind of thing, and you get your various iPads or holidays or whatever it is we decide on a quarter by quarter basis. So we've done 2 quarters of those, and hugely successful in creating awareness of what clever ideas people have come up with. The likes of 3D scanning slabs for doing level surveys, for argument's sake, simple little things. The use of GoPro for doing site walks and doing, showing people the stuff you found on site, that kind of thing. Very, very simple, very, very obvious. But, the 1,200 people around the place all come up with different ideas, different solutions to different problems. at different times and in different ways, and you can pick the ones that suit you and say, well, that's bloody clever, and you'll copy it. So that's the knowledge management piece, is to try and make sure that good ideas don't die as a project finishes.
Okay, so it's really making sure you can harvest from the best and then make sure that's dispersed around the company.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Listen, that was so. I think we're through the there's 6+ questions there. So look, just to close out for today's session, firstly, I'd like to thank Box Media, our communications partner, for facilitating the event. A copy of the webinar, the live recording, will be sent out to everybody who has attended. Our next webinar is taking place in August. Again, you'll get it once you're a registered member of Lean Construction Ireland. I believe provisionally it's with Leading Edge, a lean service provider. But look, most importantly today, I'd like to thank both Joe and Cormac, firstly for taking the time to put the presentation together and being open to sharing their lean journey. I think what has come across from both of them, they're very open to sharing and helping people on their lean journeys, and they've made lean simple and fit into their company culture. But I definitely got some ideas today, and it's unless companies are willing to be open and share that these sessions don't take place. So just on behalf of the 104 people who listen in today, I'd like to thank Sisk, Joe and Cormac for their participation. So finally, remember, you can follow Lean Construction Ireland. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. If you're not a member, it's free. Register online and you'll get notifications of all upcoming events. So that's it, folks. Have a safe rest of the day and be lean. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.